up, Hans family, and welcome to another day of Hansoween. I am so incredibly excited to bring you this Radioactive Zombie look. I know I've said this a few times before already, but this one takes the cake for my all-time favorite look. Not only because I really do like the makeup, but building this prosthetic has been my absolute favorite joy. I don't think I've ever had more fun building a makeup look before, and I just love it, and I hope you guys do too. With that said, I am also so excited to tell you that this video is sponsored by Mayron. I've had a couple other videos that have been sponsored by Mayron, and I'll show a few clips here of the other ones, so please make sure to check those out too. You guys know I'm a long-time lover of Mayron on my channel. I have used them for years, so I am incredibly thankful that they would sponsor me for this video. And it's a great way to show that you really don't need a lot of products to create a full prosthetic that you can put on your face. Make sure to check out the link below. I do have an Amazon storefront which has every single product you will need to create this look. Thank you so much for watching, and you can follow me on all of my other social medias. I usually do a lot of updates and kind of behind the scenes things on there, mainly Twitter and Snapchat. So you can check those out if you'd like, and let's just get to the tutorial. Okay, so we're starting off with a good old face cast. You don't need a face cast. You could absolutely build this on your face, but it is just going to be a little bit easier to work on a face cast. You can really see in front of you what you're doing. But I'm taking mine and just covering the entire thing with a few layers of liquid latex to start as a base. We're going to be using a ton of cotton and latex for this entire thing. That's really what it's fully made out of. So I wanted to cover one eye completely, and that's why working on a face cast is kind of nice, because you can just get it so that it'll fit your features really well when you do apply it. And since we are doing a zombie mouth, I have a little bit of a large divot under my bottom lip, so I want to completely fill that in with cotton. It's really easy to do this by adding a layer of latex first and then the cotton, and then really saturating the cotton with a ton of latex so that it becomes kind of this moldable substance that you can really get to smooth down into the shape you want. After completely covering my mouth, I would say about 5 to 6 layers of latex with a little bit of the cotton. I take a little bit of polymorph plastic, which are basically just these little plastic beads that you put into some warm water, and you let them turn clear, and then you can completely mold them into whatever shape you want. A great way to get some realistic looking teeth to put on your prosthetic is using this plastic by kind of warming it up and making a worm shape out of it, and then squishing that against your real teeth and letting that harden and just popping it off. I learned this from Robbie DeChristie, aka Christy Elizabeth. And when those are dry, you can just fill in that mold with a little bit more of the warm polymorph plastic. Let that completely dry, and move it around a little bit to break apart the two separate pieces. And when you pull those out, you have two perfectly shaped teeth and gums. Just like we did before with the cotton, the teeth themselves need something to stick onto, so I'm adding a little bit more latex so it's nice and tacky, putting the teeth down, and then filling in any of the empty space with a little more cotton and latex. This is to make it look like the teeth are naturally coming out of the mouth instead of just kind of glued on there. And I even bring a little bit of the cotton and latex down onto the gums some more too, just so it blends into the skin properly. So when I was originally thinking of this look and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it, something I do a lot is I just look around my house. We have a lot of weird knickknacks, and we have this gas mask that I used in the intro just hanging on our wall. I was like, oh my god, that'd be so perfect to do a radioactive zombie and pull off the gas mask all cool. So to make this zombie look super decayed, I'm adding latex down and taking just this little shader tool, you know, that you use in a lot of charcoal artwork, and I'm dipping that into the latex as it starts to get a little tacky and creating these little holes. Sometimes it takes a little bit of trial and error because the cotton can kind of pull up and get a little stringy, but a way to kind of combat that is to take a little bit more latex onto the tool you're using and squish that into the hole and lightly move it around a little bit so that it gets that nice soft smooth hole. Soft smooth hole. Oh god. Some of the things I say in these tutorials, I don't know. Just like any zombie, our nose would be rotting off too. So I am just building up around the base of my nose so that the inner portion of it will be a little bit more sunken in. I have some rotting, decaying flesh popping forward. And this tool is really great too. You can even use it just a spatula, whichever you have around, even the end of a brush, to kind of sharpen up the latex a little bit so it does look like it has a nice natural ridge that would pop forward. Oh, and two, this is a huge must. Add some holes right where your nose holes are going to be kind of deeper in so that later we can take an X-Acto knife and make holes in there through the entire prosthetic so that you can breathe, because breathing is pretty essential to living. I'm building up the cheekbones a little bit, just with a few layers of latex and a few layers of cotton. Only about 3 cotton balls is what this took. And when it comes to the eye that's going to be completely covered, I wanted to add a really intense kind of thicker eye bag so that was really puffy and made me look a little more sunken in underneath. And I promise you guys, having a tool to help you really sculpt and get into those fine lines will be a huge life changer. I've been sculpting now on face casts for just this month, really, and I have learned a lot in just these few times that I've done it. And always dipping your finger in a little extra latex will really help to smooth it down some more, so it's not stringy or chunky in the least. And you want to build up the brows too, just so that the eyes are super sunken in and hollow, because most zombies have some pretty deep set eyes. And even here, I'm just using that tool to add a little bit of the texture around the tops of the eyes just by adding the latex where I want it, letting that dry, and then layering it more and more on top so it's raised. For the eyeball, I took one singular cotton ball and just pushed it down and tried to keep the top portion as high up as I could, just so it was a nice perfect circle. Last year I did this with a ping pong ball and it was too big. This year my one cotton ball was a little too small, so I would suggest maybe doing a cotton ball and a half to get the perfect eyeball shape. And you already know, I love the asymmetrical look, so of course I'm going to make this eye and side a lot more intense, really gory, adding quite a bit of cotton there first, and using the bottom of a brush just to push down those indentions with a ton of latex on the edge of the brush handle. This just does help immensely when you are pulling the brush up to not pull the cotton with it and make it really stringy. Now that you are happy that you are a super decaying man, woman, or anything in between, you could blow dry this to save on time. I needed to because I wanted to immediately start painting it. So I just blew dried the entire thing. Only took me about 10 minutes till it was really dry. And for the entire painting process of this whole thing, I am just going to be using these Mayron water-activated Paradise paints in this huge palette. This has every color you will ever need, I promise you, and it's awesome because they give you 3 whites and 3 blacks. And the cool thing that I wanted to do to this is not use water. I wanted to activate these paints with alcohol, which worked perfectly. Using alcohol versus water just helps to give it a little bit more of a translucent look, which is kind of what I am going for a more realistic zombie. I mean, as realistic as a radioactive bright green zombie would get. For this, I will be using tons of colors in this palette. I am custom mixing constantly, but first I'm just starting off with giving a full base of the lime shade in the palette, and now switching to a shade called Amazon green in the palette, which is a super bright green, to create the depth into every crevice that we have made. I'm also mixing a little bit of brown from the palette just to really make those even deeper looking. I jump around a lot in this because I like to really custom mix, especially with so many colors in front of me. It's so easy to, jump into your dark green and then be like, well, I need a little bit more dark brown in here, and just mix between them really fast. But you can just focus on all of the deeper points and every kind of wrinkle and crevice we've already made. Something that is great about using alcohol versus water for this type of look on top of latex is that if you do something too dark, you can just dip your brush straight into alcohol and brush that over, and it'll lighten it right back up and make it more of a wash instead of a really opaque color. The whole zombie doesn't need to be completely radioactive, so I'm mixing a little bit of brown with the green to get the nose just a little darker to show that it's kind of rotting off. And just like anything else, where the skin would go deeper, darken that a little bit more, right under that ridge of skin that is raising forward. And just keep going throughout the entire look. Belly full of red wine. By now they must know we're gone. This is actually one of my complete favorite ways to layer on colors on prosthetics, because you can keep coming back to it. You don't have to get everything in this one shot. You can keep layering, keep adding until you're happy with the result. When it comes to the outside around the face, I did want to add plenty of greens kind of coming off, a little bit of veining work too, just that it wasn't so focused in the center of the face. And when it comes to places, let's say like under your chin, make sure to always keep your regular features into consideration too, because underneath this mouth that really raises forward, that would be super dark. So I even added a little bit of black to that too. On to my favorite part of this look, which is the mouth. To start, I want to get the inside over with so I don't have to worry about kind of trying to finagle my brush inside while my teeth are already all painted. And for the teeth, I'm just using straight up yellow, because we have some nasty zombie teeth going on. And it is Jordanhanz. I think I can only paint yellow teeth. Forever. With the teeth all done, I'm just filling in the gums with a very bright coral color. I wanted to go with this just because it is going to be a base. Most of it will be covered up in a little bit anyways. And dipping right back into that red paint that we used earlier for the mouth, I want to add a little bit of shading around each part of the gum that would not be popping forward. If you look at your natural gums, between every tooth it kind of goes inward a little bit because it needs to leave room for where the root of your tooth goes in and kind of pops forward. So just add down the color, and again, if you need to blend it out a little bit, just add the tiniest bit more alcohol and it will make it a little bit more of a wash and not so opaque. The tops and bottoms of the gums, since they are receding inwards the most, would be the darkest. This is a brown tone that I'm adding just a little bit in there and also bringing it down into the kind of rotting flesh so that it's fully cohesive. The mouth would obviously be the deepest part, so every little hole that we've made around the mouth would need to be more of a dark brown. This part of the mouth has just that big, large, deep area, so instead of keeping the entire thing that lime green, I put a darker green wash over the whole thing. You don't need to focus just too much right under like the ridges of Ray's skin. You need to also consider the fact that when large pieces go downwards, they all need to be a little bit darker. The teeth themselves need shading from each other, so I'm using the teensiest bit of brown paint with quite a bit of alcohol, so it's very light. Then adding a little bit of white to the front teeth, just the ones that pop forward, because again, we want it to look as circular as possible, so the ones in the front would be the lightest. Do the same with the top of the gums, where the tooth is going inwards into them. Switching to straight black, this is more so to give those final, deepest defining touches. Between every tooth, there would be just the littlest bit of black, especially towards the back teeth. Those would have a little bit more darkness than the ones popping forward. And this helps just using it a little bit so that there is a definite difference between each tooth, between each gum line. But again, keep that ish super light. You don't want to go overboard. Around the eye recedes very deeply into the skin too, so I'm adding just a little bit of black on the darkest points where the dark brown already is. And grabbing a more cream toned based paint that I made with just a lot of white and the teeniest bit of yellow. I still want this to look kind of grimy in some way. And adding a little bit of red to quite a bit of alcohol, so again it's more of a wash. Taking that around the entire outer corner of the eye so it looks a little irritated. And using the bright red that's more saturated to draw on some little veining. And a great way to help it look a little more kind of realistic and under the skin is to tap out the alcohol paint the second you put it down. And you guys know what time it is. Time to highlight. With just a straight white, maybe with a teensiest bit of yellow. I didn't want it too bright. I am taking this and highlighting the tops of all of the ridges that we have. Any skin that would be kind of more so popping forward. And when you sculpt, it's great and it makes it so much easier to see what would be raising forward instead of just painting on your regular skin, because it's already molded there for you. So even move the prosthetic around a little bit so that you can really get a good look at what is raised and what isn't. After Yo Bad Boy is all painted and ready to go, I'm taking a little bit of this May Run Color Set powder, and you want to powder this as you are slowly taking this off. Powder all around the top edges, and as you are slowly lifting it, take your brush and powder underneath that too. Latex has the tendency to roll on top of each other, so all of your edges that you've tried to make kind of thin would end up completely rolled over, and that's not the best. So powdering it as you go and working slowly is the best way to take this off the face cast. Once you're all done with that, it needs a clear varnish, and you want to do this off your face. Do not do this on your face. I'm just taking a clear spray varnish and spraying that all over so it's nice and shiny. That brings the entire look together and makes it look even more kind of realistic, nasty zombie. With the biggest part of this tutorial out of the way, the next part is cake. I put it up to my face and quickly realized that, oh, I can't breathe in this yet. So I took an X-Acto knife and just dove those into those holes that we created that are pretty close to where our nose holes would be, and even grabbed some scissors to create a very large line in the mouth. Just make sure you can breathe, you guys, and have enough of a hole to fit a straw into your mouth that you can still drink fluids, so you're not just horrifically dehydrated and can't really breathe for a Halloween look. Not worth it. Refine your eye hole a little bit so you have plenty of room to see as well. When that's all good, hold the prosthetic up to your face. Use something to just line out where it is going to hit your skin. Take that off, and then you can just paint the rest of your face to fit with the prosthetic. I'm still using this really awesome Mehron palette with all the beautiful colors. And I'm still using alcohol all around my neck and kind of the edges of my face that show, starting out with the lime, deepening it up with a little bit more of the Amazon green that I used earlier. But when I'm working around the eye, do not use alcohol. Don't use 99% alcohol around your eyes. Use water. And add a little bit of black around the hole you created just so it blends together on the actual prosthetic. This is just some silly little wedge sponge. I take that and rip a few holes into it because it does create some really cool kind of veining texture when you do dip it into a paint. Since the mask is so textured, obviously my body needs to fit somewhat, and I even put the prosthetic back onto my face just to see exactly where it hits so it blends well, and adding a little more yellow so it's a bit more neon. This is the liquid latex from Mehron. I usually use Prozaid to adhere things to my face, but latex works just as fine. It works perfectly good. I also don't need my nose ring, so I take that out really quick. And when the latex is nice and tacky, you can adhere your prosthetic to your face. Just try not to get the latex into your hair because it will be very annoying to get out, so just stay away from those areas. You don't need to cover your entire face in latex. Cut off a few edges that are still sticking out, preferably off your face, just be very careful. And then so that the prosthetic blends perfectly into your skin, add a few layers of latex, and I'm doing it in a very stippling motion so that when it dries it still has quite a bit of texture to it. Darken up any extra areas just so that it completely blends in a little more, especially around your eye and the edge of the prosthetic. And you can add a little bit more brown like I did just so that your features do kind of pop out a little more. Pop on a wig. That's why I left some of the latex that was on the forehead kind of just open and didn't really glue that down because my wig just completely covers that. You can pair this with whatever costume you wanted, but I really wanted to go with a hazmat suit that I did get from Amazon. The gas mask, unfortunately, I found from a thrift store a long time ago, but I'm sure you could find plenty others to go with this look if you'd like. And that is the entire look. I hope you guys like it so much. You can even take this prosthetic off really carefully and use it again, so it's not like a one-time thing. You can easily keep it. I'm going to keep all of mine and hang them up in my bathroom like a creep because I want them to be hanging and everyone to see them always. Anyways, thank you again so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Mehron for sponsoring this video. I absolutely love you guys. Check out the link below so you can purchase any of the products I used in this tutorial and any of the products that I did use in my 2 last sponsored videos with Mehron. One more little reminder too, that you can vote for me for Creative Makeup Artist of the Year in the American Influencer Awards. I will have all information down below. I just appreciate you guys so much. I can't wait to show you Wednesday's video. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's gonna be awesome. I just love the absolute fuck out of you, and I will see you the day after tomorrow. Bye.